Get to making with jive or station. When it hits you, yes.
Welcome to the Bougie Duchess with my co-host Cindy Davis. Say hi to everybody, Cindy.
Hey everyone, how are you?
I think it's going to change. So next week, with the social distancing being relaxed, me and Cindy will actually be here in the studio together. We've got 3 topics. At the top of the list, we are going to be talking about Gregory and Travis McMichael's recent arrest. If you have not known or you're not aware of what's going on with these individuals, they are the father and son duo who pursued and shot Ahmaud Arbery to death while he was jogging in broad daylight in Georgia on February 23rd. Now, Arbery was a 25-year-old unarmed black man. Gregory, 64, and Travis, 34, are white and were not arrested. They were not arrested after the slaying of this innocent American. Now, I say innocent American because he should have every right that any other person has in this country. I do not like that we create this division that, oh, it's a black American shot by a white American, so therefore it should be treated differently in some kind of way. That does not fly with me personally. This is a crime against an American. It is heinous. It is racially motivated. It has tones from an era that has been considered illegal and banned in this country long ago, but yet still flourishes and exists in the southern United States. So it is a very explosive topic that we're going to be talking about. So in order to de-escalate from this topic, we have saved some other topics like the COVID-19 mutation and the rent strike to help us de-escalate from the conversation we are about to engage in. So before I go into any further details on the matter, Cindy, would you like to throw in a couple of ideas here, or throw in a personal sentiment that you might have about the situation, a unique perspective?
Franny, this was a modern day lynching, in my opinion. This is so unfortunate that a black man running down a residential street was hunted down and shot to death. That's exactly what this is. And when I think about it, the President of the United States has given white supremacy the permission to do whatever they want to do. And I feel that it is very unfortunate, it's very sad that we're living in this era. I really think that these 2 men thought that with all the corruption and everything that's going on, that they could get away with it. And honestly, they were getting away with it, because as we can see that they didn't get, if it wasn't for this video, they would have never been prosecuted. So I want to say kudos to whoever came out with cell phone cameras, because had that never happened, this would have been washed all up under the table. There would have been no prosecution or anything. I am so grateful that people have cameras on their cell phones today, which brings on to another subject, that the person that was filming this is possibly going to be indicted as a co-conspirator to the death of this black man, because what it seems like what he was doing was filming him running, gun in hand, and he caught the murder of this. So they're still investigating whether the person that filmed this was involved in the shooting as well.
So for me, this is the problem and the complication that I'm having. Okay, number one, I would like to lay this at the feet of Donald Trump. This has been an ongoing situation that has continuously been problematic in this country for hundreds of years. So I would like to be able to blame Donald Trump for it. He is just another straw on the camel's back. The reason that I say this is because if you look back through American history, even the way the Constitution was written, the Constitution was written in such a way that it did not acknowledge the rights of women. It looked at African Americans as property, not as human beings, and it even looked at other whites as not even being able to have the right to vote. The Constitution originally was written for land-holding white men, because these were men of power that they had a problem with, at the time, the colonies. America had a king at the time, and the colonies were functioning and being taxed and governed without having representation or voice in parliament. And so an American Revolution happened, and in order to keep the southern part of the colonies and to unite in this war, they had to allow certain things happen. And that included slavery and certain situations to exist. And I think part of growing as a country is recognizing some of our mistakes, changing and adapting. And I think here in California, or at least here in Los Angeles, because we live in a bubble here in Los Angeles. Here in Los Angeles, there's people, they've got their prejudices, and sure, you're entitled to be racist in your own home. So you don't want your kid marrying whoever it is that you don't want your kid marrying. But you don't have the right to impose these views and these feelings on other people. And you certainly don't have the right to look at your son and say, grab the gun and let's go out and hunt somebody down. Which is what I kind of think was going on down here in Georgia, February 23rd. I don't know the specific details of that situation, and Martine has said it's fucked up, and I agree with Martine, but whatever the details are about this, you just don't go around shooting people that are running. And you don't shoot them based on their color. To me, it's inconceivable. I cannot believe that ticker tapes through somebody's mind as a possibility. That this is something you can do and get away with it. I don't understand that kind of logic. To me, that is just incomprehensible. I don't understand where they come up with that kind of thinking. It's inherent. It is environmental. It is part of the way Southern living is. When I lived in Texas, I used to live in Texas. I lived in Houston. And in between Houston and Beaumont, there is a city called Vidor, Texas. Now, the housing authority wanted to build HUD housing there, and they moved a black family to Vidor, Texas. they murdered that black. I think it was a black woman or a black man. They murdered them, and it turned into such a situation that Oprah did one of her shows from Beaumont concerning the racial culture of Vidor, Texas. So there are these little pockets all throughout the South where this racism exists. Then there's these pockets where it's absolutely a beautiful cultural system. I lived in New Orleans for 12 years. I love living in New Orleans. But I told my friends, if you don't like black people, please don't come to New Orleans. Because the entire city, I would say 80% of that population is of some type of African descent or Creole descent. If you just don't like that kind of mixture, don't come. Don't visit. Go someplace else.
I want to say something about this, and this is a really good topic. I think that the racist thing is bigger. I know the U.S. government has data on stuff like this when it comes to where these pockets are. We can march, we can do all this, but you know what? I've been seeing this on Facebook a lot. White people are going to take the reins on this subject. A lot of, we can, as black people, we can say we don't like it, and, but it's going to take one white person to get with another white person, and they're going to have to really create a movement around this, and not, because I've been seeing a lot of posts right now when it talks about, I think I sent it to you today, they're going around saying white lives matter. Well, yes, white lives matter too. However, at the rate of, if we were going to put data on it, they're not getting shot down by, white people are not getting shot by the police. You know what I mean? Recently, in Michigan, we see a lot of white people carrying AR-47s, AK-47s to the Capitol. You know what I mean?
We are living in some really strange times. You would have listen. I went to the bank the other day. I never thought in my wildest dreams that the bank would let me in wearing a mask on my face, and they didn't even ask me to remove it. Come on in. I went in there because I had to go and get some money and leave some items in my safety deposit box. And at no time did they ever ask me to remove my mask or look inside my purse. And, I don't carry just a little tiny purse or anything. I carry one of these big bags, You have no idea what I'm carrying inside of my bag. And they just opened up the door and let me in with the mask on my face. And to me, like I said, we're living in some strange times. But I do want to, so you brought something up about carrying guns, Capitol, and this culture about white people. See, this is a problem with these McMichael boys going on. Number one, the father, Gregory, is a retired investigator from and a former police detective. So he's got connections. This is probably why he did not get arrested that day. He's got connections in the police department. And he told the police he and his son thought Avery was armed. Now, I'm not quite sure why they thought he was armed. They just, I think everybody's armed. That doesn't mean I get to act on that thought. That's, see, this is kind of crazy, What you think and reality should not blend over like that. And they pursued him because Gregory thought he looked like a suspect in a slate of recent break-ins. So it isn't that that it was reported that in that moment there was a break-in, just that there were recent break-ins. And Gregory further claimed that Arbery began to violently attack Travis and that his son only shot Arbery after the pair began to struggle over the shotgun. Well, I'm going to tell you something. If you come at me with a shotgun, I'm going to do whatever it takes to defend myself.
Yeah,
because
I don't get killed. Like, I gotta fight for my life. I'm gonna die. Well, yeah.
I'm already under the impression that I'm getting ready to die. Martine said not to be funny, but she wants to know, what do I have in my purse when I go into the bank? Well, I have all of the essentials. Of course, I've got baby wipes, and I've got my keys, and I've got 2 cell phones that I carry. I've got makeup. Then I've got my little. I've got a bag that's got my credit cards and my money in my wallet, and then of course I was carrying. At the time, I was carrying my birth certificate and some other documentation.
Well, you know, this is a very, like
I
you
love
said,
you too.
Curious times, you know, and this brings citizens arrest. Okay, I think we kind of need to take a look at what citizens arrest is. You know, as a citizen, I don't think that gives me the right to really start to act like I'm the police. You know, and go off and like, I'm going to arrest him because I'm an American citizen. Like, I don't, as a matter of fact, I want to look that up. So, I don't.
I think he crossed the line. Number one, he crossed the line. So shortly following the release of the video, that's when a public outcry ensued and has been rising ever since. So apparently, this did not really become an issue right away. It took some time to get this video released. It was probably used as some type of evidence, and you are probably right. They were probably filming this stuff, and they were probably using it to say, see, he grabbed my son's gun before my son shot him.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a messy trial. And I'm going to tell you something about justice in the South. Mm-hmm. Trayvon Martin, we had that fool went on trial, and they came back with a not guilty plea. That took my breath away.
Mm-hmm.
You have a situation where, especially in the South, they just legitimize this kind of behavior. And I think this is why we have a federal government. So that because see, most of these trials are conducted on a state level, but there's an abuse of state power going on here, and an unwillingness, because of our president especially, an unwillingness to allow federal government to step in and say, you did this wrong, we're going to take over. And for me, it's just a horrendous. It takes my breath away. This, it really does.
I think they really need to really flip the, what if this is the other way around? Okay.
Ooh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They'd be seeking the death penalty.
Yeah, exactly. Say this was in Georgia, and we had 2 black men, okay? And we're not going to say,
No. Let's make it exactly the same. Exactly the same. Let's say it's a father and son, and there's been a rash of robberies in the community by some white man.
Yeah.
Yes, let's make it exactly the same. What do you think would be happening?
And we have a white man running down the street,
Oh, honey.
and 2 black men approach him and do the exact same thing. They shoot him down.
Baby, they would have arrested him that night. That night. That's how that would have went down. They would have arrested him that night and granted no bail. Immediately, honey. No bail granted. And they would have found some way to bury them under the jail. Not in the jail, under the jail.
Under the jail.
Not in the jail, baby, but under the jail. That's what they would have done. I'm telling you, this is the way the judicial system works here in the United States. There are two different set of rules. One for the white man and a separate set of rule for all foreigners. Because I'm going to tell you something about this country. This country says it's equal, says it's freedom for all, but do not abide by color or by foreigners alike. They just don't care for it. And I'm telling, in my younger days, believe one thing, I knew and recognized this. In the late 60s, when I started kindergarten, it wasn't kindergarten, preschool, something, I can't remember. Kindergarten, preschool, God, it was 49 years ago. Long time ago. And I didn't speak English at the time. I'm a Cuban child, Cuban immigrants. The first language of the house was Spanish. And I don't know any different or any better. But when I started school at the colored school. Now, I don't know that there is a difference because I have nothing to compare it to. So, in 1972, when they finally desegregated everything in the South, because, they desegregated things out west here a long time ago and up north a long time ago. But, the South took a little bit of time before they really, did all of that. And I realized that I was going to a colored school, and I didn't know schools had air conditioning. I didn't know that you didn't have to share your textbooks, because these white children had air conditioning. They had their own textbooks. We had to share our textbooks. And some of these textbooks were missing pages. It was just horrible. And don't let it rain. And it rained in Florida all the time, because that particular situation created another kind of complication, So, and I just had no comparison. But I realized in 1972 that I was being treated differently because of a language. Because I didn't look at my classmates and think that they were any different. I didn't look at old Willie and think he was different, or better, or worse than me. Didn't think anything of his hair being curlier than mine. Didn't think any of those things. Did not know to hate or like or dislike or be prejudicial towards something. I was taught all of that in 1972 when I first learned the difference. Believe one thing, in my eyes, there is no difference, because I look at a white man and I know his shit stinks just as bad as mine. Maybe even worse, depending on what he ate. And I believe that. And I believe that. I do not for 1 second look at people and think that because of the color of their skin, the language that they speak, that they might be better or worse than anybody. I don't even think of royalty as being better or worse than anybody. We are all equal and the same. And I'll take that thought to my grave. Now, I do know that because of environment and life I am conditioned into knowing certain facts, and I try not to let those facts rule my decisions. It's unfortunate that they do. I'm not saying that I'm exempt from it, because believe one thing, I look over at Gregory and Travis, and I've got an opinion. I understand white privilege, and I think these son of a bitches have abused their privilege. And do I think they need to pay? And do I think they need to be an example? This is where I'm allowing environment, condition, to be an example for the rest of that population. It is
something,
just horrendous.
Something dramatic is going to happen. And the government's going to have to really step in. Like, is this country moving forward or are we moving backwards? Okay, like, something's going to have to happen. There's going to be some laws, and there's going to have to be some real changes when it comes to the South. Like, we're not living in Jim Crow areas. We're not living in the 1930s when that shit was okay. This is not slavery, okay? And we're progressing. The everything is growing and changing. So for people to be walking around with guns and stuff like that, that shit needs to be cut off the books. It's unacceptable. Like, you don't need to be at war in your own home. Like, I don't see, when does that become really necessary? Now, I understand probably protecting your family. If someone breaks in your house and they're home invasions and stuff like that, people are crazy. That might happen. But for you to be out in public with a gun is not acceptable. There's no reason why you need to be out in public with an AK-47. If a black person can't do it, damn it, the fucking white person shouldn't be able to fucking do it, okay? Protect your home, but don't be going around in the fucking parks and stuff with children with AK-47s. That's not acceptable. You know what I mean? So there's that. Things need to fucking change. There need to be some laws that come down on the fucking books where, no, that's not okay, and also, we need to go and have these pockets of racism. We got to look at this, and change these laws. It's just, I would never want, a lot of people are in fear that their children are going to grow up and get shot down by the police, and I don't know if we put this on the agenda, but about the shooting of this guy in Indiana, and how he was shot by the police. And a lot of people had some really mixed views on that topic, on how he was in a high-speed chase with the police, and there's some really conflicting issues because they're saying that he's a veteran, but in the video he's looking like he's doing some skeptical stuff, okay? And a lot of people are having some mixed issues with this. He got in a high-speed chase with the police. He gets out of allegedly his car and starts running from the police. Meanwhile, filming this on Facebook Live. He gets shot down by the police. Okay. Now, a lot of black, people are like, oh, he shouldn't have been shot down by the police. Okay. True. He should have been shot down by the police. However, okay, me today, my car, when I'm in my car, I can get pulled over by the police. Okay. Because one, I have nothing to hide. I don't have any drugs in my car. Okay. They could pull me over at any time. My car is registered. My car is insured. And I own my car. Okay. So if I get pulled over today, I have no reason to be running from the police. Okay. So I'm questioning, why is this man in a high-speed chase? Color has nothing to do with it. Okay, one. Two, why am I getting out running from the police? Okay, if he's a veteran. As a veteran, you deserve the respect that comes along with being a veteran, okay? But I guess as a veteran, as they say, you're getting out of your car and you're running from the police. That is unacceptable, as a law-abiding citizen. So there's some shady stuff going on with this issue. And he got shot down by the police, I feel like this situation could have been avoided. It really could have been avoided. And I think that, a lot of times we have to really look at the full picture before we're like, oh, he's black and, the police shot him down. He didn't have a gun. But could have been avoided? Yes.
Well, I do think that, gun laws do need to be reviewed. There's a problem that it was written into the Constitution in such a way back in the day when we were having a revolutionary war, because number one, we had a militia army that was fighting against, Great Britain. And so they wanted to be able to have the right to bear arms and to be able to rise up against, they looked at King George, which at the time was the King of America. America had a king. A lot of Americans forget that we used to have a king and a queen when we were colonies of Great Britain. But those days are so far gone. We fought a civil war. All of that fighting should be over. There really should be no reason for this country to have that kind of, protection of, needing guns of this nature in our homes and such easy access. There's so much problems that arise from this, and it's just a horrendous, situation going on.
I think we need an absolute overhaul in our laws. Something has got to fucking change, and especially when it comes to the gun laws, because after Sandy Hook, after those kids were shot down, those innocent kids were shot down by a white person with he had an AK-47.
Yeah, no, all of that's ridiculous.
Nobody did shit. They were like, oh, that's so sad. Yeah. No, what the fuck are you guys going to do about this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The minute that a white person went up on the 70th floor or whatever of the MGM Grand and punched out that window and started raining down bullets.
Oh, the Vegas shootings, yes.
Yes. And rained down bullets on all those people.
Yeah. Indiscriminately. There he didn't care. That was not a crime based on race. That was just murder for murder.
Yes.
He wasn't really trying to pick any particular color. He was just shooting at people.
Yes.
Open season.
There's no problem here in our own country that is going unlooked at and unaddressed.
Yeah.
Why? Because of money. Money.
Well, yeah, the National Rifle Association does fund a lot of our candidates, including Donald Trump. And just so you know something, the McMichaels, before they took down their social media accounts, but and I don't know if they took it down or if their family members took it down, but they were avid supporters of Donald Trump. Maybe even Donald Trump had somebody take it down, because that might not be the kind of press that he really wants while he's trying to get reelected. But they're avid supporters of him. Also, some of the facts about Gregory McMichael, we already know that he's a former police detective and chief. He's retired. He is an investigator for the district attorney, Stephen Kelly, which is probably why he did not get arrested that day, and probably why there was leniency going on in that county and with the district attorney's office in suggesting that they would allow a grand jury when COVID-19 was being, when they were going to relax the restrictions on it, when the grand jury could convene, that they would put this before the grand jury for that situation. So, it was just one of those situations that's just incomprehensible. Another fact is the Gregory's ties to law enforcement in the area have led to complications with this particular case, because he's friends with the entire department, friends with the forensic team that's investigating him. The whole thing is going to be jinky at best. You remember Scooby-Doo and how they would say, well, jinkies. That's what's going on down there in Georgia. It's all jinky. They're making a mess of everything down there. McMichael's, oh God, I'm just starting to stutter now. I'm getting so angry. His hands are in every part of the investigation office. So having them even conduct any of this prosecution would just be horrible. Another thing about Arbery is, if they were, let's say we believe that story, okay? Why didn't they just shoot him and just disable him? He was shot multiple times, according to the video footage. They have not released any information via the coroner or any other office down there, but according to the video, we see he was shot multiple times. So that is pretty. I mean, to me, you shoot me once, I'm going down. You don't need to keep shooting me time and time again. All of that is just, as far as I'm concerned, is ridiculous. And here is to the point that you were saying. The video was taken by a third man whose identity has not been revealed. Now, why they're keeping that secret, I'm not quite sure. But according to the New York Times, the video of Arbery's death was taken by a third man who had joined the McMichaels in pursuit of Arbery. That man's identity has not been revealed. So you brought up a very, very good point about that. The only details given about the third man in the February 23rd police report is a reference to Roddy. Sounds white to me. The name of the third man is not clear if this is an alias or a nickname or something in between. The police report reads, McMichael stated that Arbery turned around and began running back the direction which he came, and Roddy attempted to block him, which was unsuccessful. I don't know about these white boys, but I think they were in cahoots together, and who knows what they cooked up with each other.
I'm thinking that the case against the guy that filmed it will be kind of tricky, because they would need to prove it. You know what I mean?
That would mean one of the McMichaels needs to roll over on him.
Yeah, and if they roll over on him and they say he was involved on it too, they might, because Georgia doesn't have a hate crime, which needs to change. But
wait. See, this is where I could be wrong, but I think all crimes of this nature are hate crimes. And I don't think that it's the same thing that I said. When we divide things into groups, I think we weaken a situation. So like when we take Americans and we divide them into Latino Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans, Filipino Americans, when we start doing that dividing situation, we weaken Americans. And I think when we do the same thing with laws, I think if we divide it and make a certain law a hate crime, so a hate crime now has a stiffer sentence than, let's say, so a regular crime, in my head, no. Now you're weakening the original crime that it was done. Why not just make that crime the crime that's hateful and be done with all of this madness?
Franny, I want to say, as much as I want to have faith in our justice system.
Well, that I don't have any faith in.
Be served. I really don't. I think what they're going to do is they're going to let it cool down. They're going to push it back, so probably, it's a COVID-19 stuff. Keep pushing it back for, till nobody's thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then, once we're not thinking about it, it's not in the press, they'll shuffle it off into something, give you like 10 years, and then just be like,
And then parole them after a year or two. Yes, and
yeah.
Yes. I absolutely agree that I believe that that's exactly what's going to be happening here. Do not think for 1 second that I think that is okay.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is the joke and the travesty of the judicial system, especially in the South.
Mm-hmm.
This is their excuse for not convening the grand jury. The grand juries are temporarily suspended in Georgia because of the coronavirus pandemic. But remember one thing. Last week, Georgia was the first state to reopen up because of COVID-19. But they conveniently decided not to reopen up the court system. They are such bullshit artists down there. And they do it with that little Gentile Southern accent. We all don't mean to be prejudicial down this way. It just comes across that way. Honey, I grew up down there. I know those people. You cannot sprinkle a little bit of brown sugar on me and think it's going to be okay.
Because there was this case that I guess we've all forgot about, where this other cop in I think it was Georgia, or it was North Carolina. I don't know. I think it was one of those states. It was one of those East Coast states where this cop went out and started running after this one guy, and I guess he's ran away from him. He picked up his gun while he was running away and shot him like 3 or 4 times in the back. Nobody's talking about that anymore. So I don't even know what happened. I remember the last time that the courts had he got off. I think they had a mistrial or something.
It's just like I said. Southern culture is horrendous down there. It reminds me. There used to be the song. The song is decades old. Charlie Daniels used to sing it. It's called "The Devil Went Down to Georgia," and that's where the devil lives. It's a horrendous state of affairs down there. And so many people are so okay with it. Granted, there are a lot of beautiful areas in Georgia. I used to live in Atlanta. Inside the Loop, it's very a beautiful area. African Americans built Atlanta after Sherman burnt it to the ground. African Americans rebuilt that city. It's a beautiful city. It's a wonderful place to be. But do not step outside of Atlanta and think the rest of Georgia is the same way, because it's not. You know? So let us segue to another story and start to do the little cool down process that I was talking about. Because, like I said, this story about the McMichael's family, it really breaks my heart to think that there are two sides to justice, and that the woman that holds the scale is also blindfolded in this situation, and she cannot see when the scale is tipping heavily on the white side of supremacy. And it is unfortunate that it still exists in this country. I'm just hoping that they can find an impartial jury, and that they treat this like the kind of crime that it is, where there's 3 individuals that participated in the hunting down and filming of this young black man. It's just a horrendous situation, and my heart goes out to Arbery. Is that how you pronounce it?
I'm not sure. Arbery?
Yeah. My heart goes out to his family. I just, don't know. I wouldn't even know. People say things like, my deepest condolences. I wouldn't even know. That cannot begin to cover the kind of emotions and the outpour that is going on with me right at the moment. I think we need to remember this man's name, remember this event, and remember, not let the fact that Arbery was murdered, in the streets of Georgia, go, without some type of recognition. Anyway, so, I just, it's, for me, that's just very, very overwhelming. Okay. So moving on, let's see, COVID-19 and its mutation. There we go. So, and I'm going to, we're going to, they have an article here about the mutation. Now, they say it won't interfere with the vaccine. Okay? So, they say every virus mutates. It's part of the virus life cycle. Those shifts and changes aren't always a big deal. The new coronavirus is an RNA virus, a collection of genetic materials packed inside the protein shell. RNA virus, like the flu and measles, are more prone to change and mutations compared with DNA virus, such as herpes, smallpox, and human papillomavirus, HPV. So, as the new coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 makes its way around the world, there has been an uptick in predictions that the virus will mutate into something deadlier and become even scarier threat to humanity. So that was the concern. Okay, hold on, because Gurpenda wants me to tell the truth about Georgia. It's a hot box. What is it that you would like me to tell the truth about Georgia? Georgia is a very mixed and diverse state. It's, it's jinky. I already said it. It's jinky. What else why don't you say something about Georgia? Go ahead. I would love to hear your input about Georgia. You know Gurpender. You know Gur.
Yeah, I know Gur.
I love Gurpender.
What's my input on Georgia?
Yeah.
Well,
Have you been to Georgia? No.
I've never been to Georgia. However, I want to go to Georgia. I do want to experience the southern feel, the southern experience. However, you know, I would go in there knowing that it's very racial and racist, and me as being a black transgender is going to be a little bit more of a, you know.
I would never let that secret be publicly known.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you nobody would ever clock that tea. Number
Mm-hmm.
one. So, but I would never allow that secret. I'm going to tell you something. I've always been very, very guarded about my transgenderism, and because number one, it's nobody's business what's going on in my pants. I do not intend on sleeping with the entire world, nor with anybody in my neighborhood. So it's nobody's business what goes on in my pants, number one, or under my skirt. I am happy that I've had a sex change and that now I'm living as a female. I am happy about that change, but it's still nobody's business what's going on under my skirt. And I live by that code. And so a lot of times when those kind of conversations come up, they are personal. If I dare to engage in them, it would be under the understanding that it goes no further, because it's not for public consumption. It's just the way I feel about it. Now, I know I just publicly disclosed it's because I'm not afraid of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But believe one thing, when this conversation comes up in public forums, I dictate the narrative. Nobody is ever in charge of what gets said about me except for me. It's the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
Moi is not the truth about Georgia.
Yeah.
I love him. Okay, so back to the mutation. The word naturally conjures fear and unexpected freakish change. Researchers wrote in a report, so I don't think we really should be too scared of this mutation. It might be something that we catch easier, quicker. I know the flu mutates every year. There's variations of the flu. There's variations of COVID. And I think that this is probably going to be the way things are. I personally am worried about the vaccine development that they're doing, because it's not going through the regular rigorous testing that usually vaccines go through before they're made into for human consumption. That is problematic as far as I feel, and don't know if I'm going to race to be first in line for a vaccine, because I would hate for the vaccine to actually do something to me and hurt me in some kind of way. But I will wait and see what the studies produce on that. And so I think the next topic that we were going to talk about is here in Los Angeles. I posted something about a rent strike. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I paid my rent this month. What about you, Cindy? You pay the rent this month?
I paid next month's rent.
You paid next month's rent, so you paid in advance.
Yeah, I always pay in advance, just in case.
Just in case. Smart girl. So, yeah, but I've been going through the neighborhood. Now, I know some people have hit some rough times, and they're not paying the rent. And I'm going to tell you, you can strike the rent if that's what you choose to do. But believe one thing, these landlords, the people that own the property, they don't really own the property by themselves. They've got a mortgage on that property. They are paying a bank on that mortgage. If they don't pay the mortgage, the bank will repossess. And if you think the bank is going to be a nicer landlord than your landlord, woo, have you got a surprise coming? So my suggestion is I get it. You might be having rough times right now, and you might not want to pay that rent, but there's some guarantees in life. Death and taxes happen to be at the top of the list.
I'm actually surprised that people actually think they're going to go on a rent strike. Like, really? Like, you know, the city and everybody has done everything to make things easy. You know, my landlord actually put something on my door because you know, they're like, okay, well, we understand the times are tough, okay, and you may not be able to pay your rent, but you're going to pay your rent. Okay, so we're going to put you on a payment plan.
Oh, yeah. They're going to get their money. They're going to get their money or they're going to get their space back. One or the other.
So just because, you know, you may not be able to pay your rent, you know, I don't like having that type of. I'm so grateful. That's one of my things. I'm so grateful that I don't have. I've been able to work, but some people don't have that. They can't work right now.
I know.
And what they're doing is they're taking whatever rent that you got that you're missing, and they're going to cut that up into 12 payments over the next year. Once we all go back to work, you're going to have to pay back.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that adds up for me. If I didn't have worsened in the situation, that's $75 more a month that I would have to pay.
Yeah.
On top of my rent that I would have to pay. You know what I mean? So I can imagine, like, say, for instance, you know, for people who pay $1,300 a month in rent, if you got to split 13, like, let me see, 1,300 divided by 12 is an extra $108. So you have to pay $1,408 a month for the next year. And that's on top of them doing, they're going to want to do their rent increase, which is what, 3%? So they're going to tack that on. So it's going to be tight.
I think here in the city of Los Angeles, you know, Mayor Garcetti gets on the news every night at 5 p.m. And one of the things he did was he freezed any kind of rent increase for the next 12 months because of this situation. So,
Okay.
All right, Cindy, we have gone a whole hour. Woo! Girl, we did that. And so, and I want to thank all of our viewers for joining in and commenting. I love everybody for participating. This was a wonderful hot topic segment. Be looking out. I will take it and edit it and post it to the YouTube channel. Cindy, you want to say any parting words?
I will see you guys in person next week. And I hope everyone stays safe throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. It sucks, but we're going to get through it.
We are going to get through it. And I thank you for joining us. This is the Bougie Duchess, wishing you good health and good afternoon. Mwah. Bye now.